What is more worrying is that actually Russia is increasing its influence inside Belarus. As Russia gave just a little amount of money, it means that actually Lukashenko will be asking them again and again. So Russia will have a huge influence over Lukashenko's actions, and Russia will be able to actually to say Lukashenko what to do in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 months.
Ryhor, you've touched upon where I'm going next on this one. I don't know if I've become a cartophile, which is a lover of maps, but if you do look at the map, and I suggest all of our viewers do that, you see that Belarus is strategically right in a key position between the EU and Russia as well. For whom is it the most important strategically, the EU and the West, or for Russia?
I think for Russia, because, well, Russia sees this, they see my country as part of their sphere of influence, while at the same time the West is not very interested in Belarus. I guess right now it's obvious that despite all the atrocities on the streets, despite murders, repressions, tortures in prisons, actually the West is not very interested in helping Belarusians. I mean, investing a lot in political solutions for this crisis. Of course, we see a huge wave of solidarity among Western states, but at the same time, we do not see that actually Western states would like to do anything inside the Belarus.
Is a part of that due to the events of 6 years ago and the off-sighted mismanagement of the relationship between the EU and the West with Ukraine? Are we learning in the West from our mistakes? Is there any relevance in the Ukrainian adventure to what's going on in Belarus?
Well, yes and no. No, because actually this crisis, Belarusian political crisis, is very different. It doesn't have any geopolitical sentiments. That's why it's very difficult to compare it. And even if you watch Russian TV stations, even state-run TV stations, they have a pretty weird coverage of Belarus. At the same time, they support Lukashenko, but at the same time, they publicly say that, well, he falsified elections, and they publicly say that, well, there are some atrocities on the streets. So it's a little bit tricky. And yes, it of course, Ukraine was a huge lesson for the West, how to deal with Russia and how to deal with Ukraine. So yeah, I think it was a very important one, but I do not think that actually right now the West, well, learned a lot from that crisis in Ukraine 6 years ago.
Yeah, and maybe Belarusian politicians and opposition leaders have learned a lot from that crisis as well. So, I mean, regardless of who is in power, whether Lukashenko manages to cling on to power or not, does the country ultimately need to make a decision between Russia or the West, or can it sit between the two and play both sides over the longer term?
Well, I guess that right now, even in Belarus, Belarusian political opposition recognizes that it cannot leave Russia's sphere of influence. Right now, it seems that it's just impossible right now. And the West accepts that as the fact, and there's some democratic opposition understands that. So I do not see that Belarusian democratic opposition, Belarusian nation will be somehow able to move to the West.